Hugh.
George.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
In person. Had great success with Woo around the world and in Greece, and we're very lucky to have your books on the JukeBooks platform as audiobooks, and they're doing great.
Man, I'm honored. Thank you.
We've got a lot of fans who would really love to learn more about you, so here we are. How did you get into sci-fi? I know it's not the only thing you write, but
it's my favorite. You know, as a writer, you start as a reader first. And my favorite thing to read when I was a kid, and for many years, like into my 20s, was science fiction. And I discovered it because I was reading fantasy books at the time, like Dungeons and Dragons and the Forgotten Realms books. And the science fiction was shelved right there with it. And so it's impossible to be a fan of one and not come in contact with the other. And I picked up Ender's Game by Orson Scott Card when I was very young. And reading that book really changed my life in more ways than just wanting to be a sci-fi writer. It made me dream of outer space more. It made me think about science more than fantasy, and really made me the kind of curious person that I feel like I am today.
When did you understand that you wanted to write about it?
As soon as I finished the book. Like I read Ender's Game and I read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy at the same time, and I thought, I want this story to keep going, so I need to write it myself. And so I understand where fan fiction comes from, and I celebrate it. It's like if you pick up the guitar and you hear a song that you love, you sit there and try to play the same song. You don't necessarily go write original music. First you play what you're familiar with. And so I fell in love with these books so much, I just wanted to write them myself, you know. I spent 20 years trying to write a novel and failing. Like I would have an idea, I'd get started, I'd write a few chapters. I would either get frustrated, this isn't as good as I want it to be. The problem is I was comparing what I was writing to the last book that I read, which was a polished draft that had gone through editors and agents and many revisions. But I would write like a rough draft and be like, oh, this isn't good enough. And so I would give up and get frustrated. And it took many years before I learned that writing is a process. You have to write the rough draft. You have to make it better. Don't give up. Don't judge yourself. Like really embrace the messiness of the craft. Nowadays, I don't really start writing a book until I've daydreamed about it for a long time, sometimes years. So by the time I sit down to write it, I know how it's going to end. I know who the characters are. And for me, knowing the ending is the most important thing. If I know how the story is going to finish, then I know the journey I'm going to be on to get there. Every project I take, I want to make sure that it's not too similar to something else I've done. The same when I set out to write my first books, I only wanted to write something if it wasn't already on the bookshelf. Or in your case, like on the audio bookshelf. If it's already been done, I'm not interested in it. So that the same is true for my own library of books. I kind of look at the stories I've told and I want to tell something different, something new.
So you can get influenced by everything you read, but writing something different is a challenge. Yeah,
it's a challenge. You want to find a gap in the field that you can fill. But the reason I try now to read a lot of nonfiction, which is not only to learn a lot, but it's to avoid seeing what's happening in my genre. Because I might have an idea that I want to explore, and if I find someone else has already done it, then now I can't write that story. So the more you read, if you're trying to be original, the more you feel paralyzed, because there's so much story out there, so much has been written already. I like to read everything, I read a lot of like pulp crime stuff, like John D. MacDonald, all of his books, the Fletch series, the Gumshoe stuff. I have a very wide taste in reading, and I think my writing reflects that.
So when did you start ever considering that something like this might also make it on the screen?
Never. Even when we did the first film deal with Ridley Scott, no part of me thought we would actually make the film. And they would, create drafts of scripts and have directors attached. And I would think that's as far as that will go. Nothing will ever get made. And when we did the TV deals for both of these books, again, I just never believed it would get made. And a couple of the stories in machine learning are now in development. They're writing scripts. They're trying to turn them into shows and movies. And I'm like, that's amazing, but it will never get made. It's just better to, this is something I have no control over. So, you know, I shouldn't have expectations or get my hopes up. Just concentrate on my writing and let this happen on its own. My first impression was walking on the set of Silo and seeing what they had built. I mean, they built 3 stories of the silo at full scale. And stepping into that space blew my mind. I couldn't believe a little story I'd made up had created that much work for other people. Like, I felt bad. I was like, I walked into the production offices where you have the people working fabrics and design and everyone gets up and they're all, you know, excited that I'm there. And I'm just like, I am so sorry for the fuss. And it took me a while to realize everyone was happy to be there and working on the project. They got it better than right, because I don't have the creativity that all these people have together. Like, you're bringing in so many artists who are specialized just in wardrobe. And so when I'm writing, I'm like, everyone's wearing colored coveralls, you know. It's very lazy because I'm working on so many other things. I don't have time to make that part of the story its full best version of itself. But when you hire a whole team of experts who are just focused on that, they make that part better. And someone else is focused on, you know, the lighting, and they make that better. Someone else is focused. So getting all these really talented people together made a version of the world that's better than my version.
Where do you go from here? I mean, what are your next plans, and what have you been thinking of challenging next?
Well, I've got the 3rd book in the Sand trilogy that I'm working on now to wrap that up, where my writing partner, Matt Michelatos, and I, who's Greek, he and I are working on 4 or 5 different shows right now that we're hoping to at least move one step forward. Again, I don't believe any of them will get made, but it's exciting to have conversations with people and collaboratively work on these projects together. It's like listening to 2 kids playing make-believe. My wife laughs all the time about, like, it just sounds bizarre that we're paid to make up stories together. And it's easier than on your own, because you can toss out an idea and they can say, that'd be nice, but what if this? And you're like, oh, that's incredible. And then you can also have someone say, I'm not sure about that idea, but let's, you know, think about it some more. We elevate each other's writing in a way that's, and it makes it more fun. Like, I look forward to getting up every day and having conversations with him about our worlds. I love audiobooks. I love audiobooks for several reasons. 1, they make me more productive as a reader, but 2, it changed my life as a writer. Like, I had no idea how many extra readers I would reach through audio. I think one of the mistakes we make in publishing is to assume that all readers are the same. So if it exists like this, that's enough. You know, this can reach everyone. But the reality is, like, some people only want to do audio, or they only want to watch the TV show, or they only want a hardback or like ebook. And these are all different readers. And so if I want to get my story out there, I need to make sure that I'm catering to every kind of reader or listener. For myself, I love listening to especially nonfiction audiobooks that are read by the author. So you have, you know, Adam Savage telling you his story as a tool maker and a user, and you have his voice in your head. You feel like you get to spend time with them. And I love the relationship I have with my narrators, because what I've found is that readers don't just follow an author, they follow the narrator. It's the voice that they want consistent. And that has these audiobook listeners going from science fiction to a crime novel to, you know, a thriller. And they might not make that decision if they were shopping in a bookstore, but because they're following their favorite narrator, they're becoming.
Yeah, we've seen the same thing, and people following narrators and exploring new types of genres that they hadn't considered reading before. And so it's interesting to hear this. I think I should get you to meet your Greek narrator as well.
I would love that.
And do you listen at specific times for a day, or is it part of a routine?
It's not as much of a routine as I would like. It's whenever my hands are busy. You know, if we're cooking a meal together, we can put it on. When I was sailing, I listened to a lot of audiobooks while I was in the South Pacific, because when I got to civilization, I could get on the internet and download, have like 10 or 12 books ready to go. And then while you're sailing, I could put it on the speakers and have a book playing, like while I'm doing lines and navigating and doing other stuff. You can't watch TV while you're sailing. You got to be, your eyes are engaged. The beauty of audiobooks is that your ears can be engaged, but the rest of you is like, doing something. You're exercising, you're driving to work.
I think it's obvious you love sailing, and I hope Greece provides a good platform for sailing for you.
I mean, it's one of the best cruising grounds in the world, and it's where sailing was really came into its own. This is like the original sailing grounds for so many people. So, yeah, it's beautiful here. And I've only started spending time in the Mediterranean in the last couple of years, but I thought the Bahamas, the South Pacific had the most beautiful water, but the water here is so crystal clear. Like we're paddleboarding and you're seeing all the fish beneath you. You can just see right to the bottom. It's amazing.
Well, it's great to have you in Greece. We hope to see you more often.
Thanks. I'd love to come back.
Thank you very much for this time together with JukeBooks. It was very nice to meet you.
Thanks, George. Nice to meet you.